Hello, good evening, and welcome to Lions Lineup, a new show here at Lions Television that will provide you with sports analysis, information, and fun on the national level. On the lineup today, the NBA lockout is finally over, a new NFL team fighting to be the best ever, plus fact or fiction and the Take Your Pick segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Kimberly Horner, along with Joe Vasile and Alex Zucker. Our first segment of the show will be the personal stories section, which will cover an event in sports followed by discussion. We'll start with Joe.
Hi. Christmas came early this year to fans of the NBA as the owners and players finally came to an agreement Friday. The NBA lockout is over after 149 days. The two sides agreed to play a shortened 66-game season beginning on Christmas Day. The players also agreed to a 49 to 51% revenue share with the owners, down from the 57% in the last collective bargaining agreement, and changes were also made to the already complex salary cap system. Some people say that the NBA was shamed into getting a deal done after Major League Baseball and its Players Association was able to write a new CBA without a work stoppage, something both the NFL and NBA were unable to do. This lockout has undoubtedly done some irreparable damage to the league, but now that they're back, there's plenty to look forward to over the next month, beginning with free agent signings and trades, and ending, of course, with the beginning of the season. Now, I know I'm very excited. A lot of NBA fans are very excited for the season to finally get underway, and quite frankly, the next month is just going to be absolutely incredible for the NBA.
Well, yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting because their season's going to be shortened, but the really thing that makes me a little worried for the NBA is the thing you mentioned that's going to cause permanent damage to the league. I think that we've seen the effects of the NHL lockout, the baseball lockout that happened in the 90s. It does have damage on the fans, on the organizations, and just the whole revenue of the system. So we'll see how the league adapts after the lockout, but I do think they'll be able to have a successful season.
Yeah, also, I believe it was the 98-99 season, they had a very similar situation where they played a 50-game shortened season, and that whole situation, it hurt the league for a little while, but then obviously, really last year, the ratings went way up because of the whole thing with the LeBron James situation with the Miami Heat. A lot of people were interested in that, either to root for him or against him. Yeah. And obviously, this work stoppage here, they've missed already about 2 months of the season, and it's going to be tough for them to come back from that. But I think that now we're going to see a renewed interest in the NBA, and it's going to really flourish for years to come.
I agree. I think there was too much money to be lost for them not to have a season. And I think that going forward, we'll see how the season progresses. It should be interesting with the Miami Heat trying to fight back, the Dallas Mavericks fighting to defend their title. It should be very interesting. All right, so it looks like we're going to move on to our next personal story, and I'll start with that. So back in 2007, the New England Patriots achieved an incredibly rare accomplishment. They finished the regular season with a perfect 16-0 record. Tom Brady engineered a record-setting offensive attack, joined by a future Hall of Famer wide receiver Randy Moss. Following the regular season, many NFL analysts stated that this team was the best NFL team of all time. In the postseason, the Patriots reached the Super Bowl, but fell to the New York Giants in a close contest. This year, a similar situation may happen, as the Green Bay Packers stand at 11-0 with 5 games remaining in their season. As we all know, the Packers won the Super Bowl last year and have not lost a game since Week 15 against New England back in 2010. Aaron Rodgers, who is becoming an elite quarterback in the league and has talent all across the board, leads the team into the final stretch of the season. Now, much debate has occurred on whether or not the team will attempt to finish a perfect season or instead rest players heading into the postseason. Looking at the schedule, the Packers play the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Lions, Giants, and the Bears. Not necessarily an easy schedule, but definitely not impossible. I personally believe the team will finish undefeated, as they have terrific players at every position. Now, nobody can predict exactly where the Packers end up this year, but if the team finishes the regular season at 16-0, they will instantly be compared to the 2007 Patriots team. Extra pressure would be placed on the team in the postseason, and Packers fans and players would only be satisfied with another Super Bowl victory. Any team can win any game in the NFL, and it's hard to play perfect football over the course of the entire season. Therefore, the team may fall in the same way the Patriots did. But if this team finishes undefeated and wins the Super Bowl, they, in my book, would be the best team that has ever played in the NFL. And I think the reason I say that, Joe, is because if you look at every position on their team, they're just stacked. They've got solid running backs with Ryan Grant, Starks. They've got good wide receivers with Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Julio Jones, I believe.
Even an aging Donald Driver.
Exactly, he's still very good. And their
numbers.
defense has a lot of talent. So I think, assuming that they will finish 16-0, if they win the Super Bowl, that's a perfect season. They have to be the best ever.
I don't know. It's hard to tell because they have had a very weak schedule. They play teams like
That's
Jacksonville. Minnesota's a very weak team in their own division. They get 2 games against them. To me, when you look at a team like the 2007 Patriots, which is easy to compare to because they're a recent team, the game hasn't really changed a whole lot since then. I'd say that team was probably better because they did more with probably even less talent on the offensive side of the ball. They had Tom Brady, Wes Welker, and Randy Moss, and that's really all they really had on the offensive side. They didn't have much of a running game that year.
And not much of a defense, too.
Yeah, on the defense, exactly. The defense wasn't that great. It was still, though, a good defense. I believe they still had Richard Seymour at that point, Vince Wilfork on the line, Teddy Bruschi and Mike Vrabel. I believe they had Asante Samuel, Lawyer Malloy. They had some very good players that year. And to be able to go not just 16-0, but then to carry that into the playoffs and to come really one helmet catch away from winning a
Super Bowl.
Tyree,
yeah, exactly.
That was an absolutely incredibly talented team. Great team. Also, I think you got to give credit to the 72 Dolphins. Sure, they only played a 14-game season back then, but they still were able to absolutely dominate. They were a juggernaut back then. They were probably one of the most complete teams
What about
ever.
that team makes them better than the Packers team? Because if you look at the Packers depth chart and you compare each position to other teams' position at those levels, how are they not the best ever? I mean, I think if you look at each position, they have talent across the board. There is not a weak spot on this team.
That's very true. I mean, you did say the Packers defense. That is a little.
It's not as good as it was last year.
That's a little iffy. Yeah, they've been giving up a lot of points, and the way that they've been winning the games is they've just been outscoring their opponents, and at some point that might come back to bite them.
Yeah.
Whether it be over the next 5 games here in the regular season or in the playoffs, their defense needs to play better. And then if they can prove that the defense can play well, then yes, they might be up there with possibly the best team ever.
Well, it should be interesting. They still have 5 games to go, so we will definitely see how that spans out.
Well, thank you both. All right, well, that will do it for our personal story segment. We'll be right back with the fact or fiction right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Now we will begin our fact or fiction segment where our experts decide whether or not a statement is essentially true or false. Tim Tebow, the Denver Broncos, will win the AFC West division.
Well, I think this is interesting because the team currently sits at 6-5. They're 1 game behind the Oakland Raiders at 7-4. And I think going into this season, we would have predicted that the Chargers would have ran away with this division as they usually do. The Chargers now stand at 4-7. Their season's pretty much over. I'm going to say fact. I really do believe that this team has a solid defense. They have a very good offense, even though it's not or unconventional. They run the ball well. Tebow manages the game. He doesn't turn the ball over. I'm going to say fact. I think they'll win the division over the Raiders.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you here. I got to go fiction with this. I mean, Tim Tebow, he puts up ugly stats, but yet he still finds a way to win each week, and I got to commend him for that. He certainly does know how to lead the team. He does what it takes to get the win, even if it's not relying on his arm. But as far as the Oakland Raiders, you said ahead of them at 7-4, I don't see them starting to play lesser. I mean, their starting quarterback from the beginning of the year, Jason Campbell, is out with an injury. Darren McFadden's been out with an injury the last few weeks. I think once they get McFadden back, Carson Palmer's starting to play a little better for them now that he's gotten used to the offense. Their defense is still just one of the best, even though they lost Nnamdi. I don't see them relinquishing first place anytime soon.
Should be interesting.
Okay, number 2, fact or fiction, the New York Giants, after a 6-2 start, will miss the playoffs. What do you guys think?
I think based on their schedule, unfortunately for Giants fans, I have to say fact. I think that they play, this week they play the Packers at home, which is going to be a tough game coming off their big loss on Monday night against the Saints. And they also have to play Dallas. So I think it's going to be, they actually have to play Dallas twice, right? Mm-hmm. So playing Dallas, a very good team, 2 times, and the Packers, I just think it's going to be very hard for this team to make the playoffs. I'm going to say fact.
Joe?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me as a Giants fan. I'd like to say fiction that they're going to make the playoffs, but I honestly don't know at this point. I don't know one way or the other. like Alex said, they do have a tough schedule. They've got to play the Packers still in Green Bay. They've got to play Dallas twice. Even though Dallas, I think, is a team that they match up relatively well with, I don't know if that's really going to be enough. They still have to play Washington, so there's probably a win there. I don't know if they'll be able to get the 10 wins that's probably going to be needed to get into the playoffs.
They'll be lucky if they get 9, and that might not even be enough. So.
Well, only time will tell.
That's right.
Number 3, the Indianapolis Colts will go witness and end the season at 0-16. Fact or fiction?
It's tough for the Colts this year, losing Peyton Manning. He obviously, as we can see, was the most valuable player on that team, and he held the whole team together. I'm going to say fact for this one as well. I think this team just has nothing going offensively. Their defense has a lot of holes. There's only 5 games to go. I think that they have a very good shot going 0-16.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point really that you have to start thinking maybe they would not exactly try as hard as they can to win the game, so that way they can set themselves up for that number 1 overall pick. With Andrew Luck, I believe we referred to that a few weeks ago on the show. And really, it might not be something that Colts fans want to see, but it could really be the best thing for the franchise going forward if, in fact, they do go 0-16. I'm going to say fact.
So they can have a future with Andrew Luck behind Peyton Manning. And really, Manning only has a few good years left, so that would definitely be a good pickup for them.
Okay, and last one, fact or fiction, the New England Patriots have the best offense in the AFC.
Well, I keep saying fact. I think I've said fact for all of them, but for this one I'm going to say fact too. I think this offense, as we've seen in the past few games, they've done very well. They lit up the Eagles. They lit up the Jets defense. If you look at this offense top to bottom, they have a very solid attack. You've got Tom Brady, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You've got wide receivers like Wes Welker, Deion Branch, who's been resurrected in New England. And then you've got the 2 tight ends, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. I really think this offense is unstoppable in the AFC. If it wasn't for the Packers, they'd probably be the best offense in football, so I'm going to say fact.
Yeah, you pretty much said it all right there. I mean, exactly. They're not the best in all of football. That goes to the Packers. The Saints are up there in that discussion too, especially after their beating the Giants on Monday night. But when you're talking AFC offenses, you got to go to New England Patriots. They have it all. They've got the receivers. They've got the quarterback. They've got a good enough running game to keep the teams guessing. And there's no one that can really stop them on a consistent basis.
I agree.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with the Take Your Pick segment and much more right after this. Welcome back, everyone. We will now begin our Take Your Pick segment on the show where our experts decide who they think will win this week in the NFL. The first one will be the Bengals and the Steelers.
I think this will be a very good game between 2 division rivals. It should be very close. It's always a good game when these 2 teams end up playing in Pittsburgh. But since the Steelers are at home, I think I'm going to take them in this game. I think Cincinnati did not play well last week against the Browns. They were down late in that game, and they probably should have lost. So I think that the Steelers, with the experience, with the better defense, they pull out the win here in this game.
Yeah, Cincinnati's one of those teams that they're much better than they look. And they're a team that a lot of people really don't give the respect that they deserve to. I'm finally jumping on the Cincinnati bandwagon. I'm saying the Bengals are going to go into Pittsburgh and upset.
That's a big upset.
It is a big upset, and I'm probably going to be wrong with it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay, up next we have the Falcons versus the Texans.
I think this will also be a good game. The Texans right now have a very good record in the AFC, whereas the Falcons are coming off a few wins. I'm going to take Atlanta, though, on the road in this game. I think that they'll be able to go in there and get it done. I think the Texans, without Matt Schaub, are going to have trouble scoring. And I think Matt Ryan, Roddy White, and that solid Atlanta offense will pull them to win.
Yeah, Atlanta's a very good team, and I got to pick them to win. Not only is Matt Schaub out, but Matt Leinart, the backup quarterback, is now out. Yeah. They're going with the 3rd-string quarterback. They just signed Jake Delhomme out of retirement this past week. Their offense is in shambles. You got to go with Atlanta in this one.
Next one is Packers versus the Giants.
This will be a good, I really do think a lot of people are saying this game's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Giants will come out to play on their home turf, but I still have to take the Packers. I think the Packers, with that offense, I personally believe they have a better offense than the Saints, and the Saints put up 49 against the Giants on Monday night. Packers defense will be able to keep Manning and that Giants offense in check. I'm going to take the Packers by 14.
Yeah, I got to go with the Packers. I mean, after what The Giants played absolutely no defense Monday night against the Saints. There's no way that they're going to be able to stop the Green Bay offense unless radical changes are made during the week, and I just don't see that being able to happen in just a 6-day span.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the next one is the Lions versus the Saints. What do you guys think?
This will be a close game, too. I think the Lions have had a very good season, an uplifting season for Detroit and their fans. The Saints, though, right now are running hot. They beat Atlanta 3 weeks ago. They beat the Giants on Monday night. New Orleans at home, I got to like them in this game.
Yeah, I pretty much have to go with New Orleans, too. After what they did Monday night to the Giants, and we keep going back to that. But also, Drew Brees is very good. No Ndamukong Suh for the Lions because, of course, his suspension. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a hard time stopping Darren Sproles in the running game, Mark Ingram. And then that'll just open up the pass for Drew Brees, and they're going to put up maybe not 49 points again, but probably at least 30 on the Lions.
I think it'll be a high-scoring game, and the Saints may win, say, 35-24 or something like that. Defense won't be as great in this game, but I still think they'll have the better offense to get the win. Okay,
and we have one more take your pick, and that is the Titans versus the Bills.
I think this will be a good game. Both teams have similar records. The Bills are 5-6, and I believe the Titans are 6-5. I think that in this game, a lot of people are going to say the Titans are going to win. I'm going to take the Bills. I think the Bills played well against the Jets last week at home. A couple catches and a no penalty, I guess, or if Stevie Johnson didn't take that penalty, the Bills probably win that game. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick has a good game. I think the Bills' offense moves down the field. In this game, I think they beat the Titans.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bills, they need to make a statement here. If they don't win, their season is
They're
dead.
done.
They got off to a very good start this season. It would really be a shame if it would go out like this against such a mediocre team like the Titans.
I agree.
They're not a very good team. I think Buffalo's going to probably maybe not revert back to what they were the first few weeks of the season when they were beating the Raiders and teams like that.
Good teams. And the Patriots.
The Patriots, too. But I think that they've got enough to pull out a win this week.
All right, and that will do it for this edition of Lions Lineup. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to be on our show as a guest or get involved with Lions Television, email our account at ltv@tcnj.edu. For Joe Facile, Alex Zucker, and all of our crew, I'm Kimberly Horner, and we'll see you next time.